All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today we're going to be talking about the longest lasting fragrances in my collection. So all of these last at least 10 plus or more hours on my skin, and many of them last a lot longer than that. But if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on these fragrances, then let's go. All right, first up from the house of Essential Parfums, we have Bois Imperial Extrait. Man, so this one is a beast. Just like its brother, the EDP. The EDP was a huge performer, big sillage, big projection, and this one is no exception. This one pushes out extremely heavy. You have a massive sillage trail with this one, and in terms of its longevity, this one easily lasts over 15 hours on my skin. This one is just a crazy performer. But I would say this, if you have the original, now I used to have the original, the EDP, but I've recently gotten rid of that fragrance, not because I didn't like it or didn't love it. Actually, I love that fragrance, but as you guys know, I live here in Japan. I'm very limited on the space that I have. So, the EDP was a fragrance that I hadn't reached for probably in about a year. So, I think in terms of cleaning up my own collection, I'm trying to get rid of fragrances that I haven't reached for in at least a year or more, to free up space for, maybe newer fragrances that I want, or just in terms of just cleaning up my collection a little bit and not kind of, wasting those fragrances, giving them to people that will actually use them more frequently, as they should be, because they're amazing smelling fragrances. But yeah, Bois Imperial Extrait. I would say if you have the original, you may not necessarily need this. I mean, they definitely are quite similar. However, with the Extrait, I feel like it's a bit more rounded. I feel like in the EDP, there's some areas that were quite sharp. With this one, you still get that kind of molecular woodiness, but you also get a bit of leather, and just a very subtle hint of rose in here. It is extremely subtle. I mean, to some people, they may not even pick it up. But Bois Imperial Extrait on my skin, it even comes off slightly ambery, which is interesting considering it doesn't really contain any notes in it that kind of, push in that amber direction, but it comes off slightly ambery on my skin. So, which is actually very, very pleasant, and I love it. And so that's kind of where I kind of see the difference for the most part, is on my skin, the Extrait pushes slightly ambery. You get that kind of leather quality, in a very, very slight floral kind of rosy type of vibe that is so minimal that people may not even be able to pick it up. But yeah, in terms of its performance, it is quite beastly, just like the original. But in terms of its longevity, man, 15 hours. Easily this one. This one is thick. When you spray this one on, you can see the oils on your skin. So it is a true Extrait. But yeah, it's a lovely one. And just like the original, I'm really enjoying the wearing experience of this one. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Bois Imperial Extrait by Essential Parfums. Next up from the house of Nishane, we have Sultan Vetiver. Man, so Sultan Vetiver is a true work of art. This is one of my favorite Vetiver fragrances in my collection, and I bounce back and forth between Sultan Vetiver and Incident Diplomatique by Bois as being my top Vetiver fragrance. Now, I think to really appreciate this fragrance, you need to truly enjoy Vetiver, because this is a slap of Vetiver in your face. They use 4 different kinds of Vetiver in here. One thing that I really appreciate about that is that this fragrance truly shows you all the facets of Vetiver, the journey that it takes you on. I mean, Vetiver can come off in so many different ways. It can come off fresh, soapy, kind of humid, dirty, damp, a little bit funky. I mean, there's so many different facets that Vetiver has, and this fragrance shows you all of them. There's also a slight leathery tone that starts to push through here, but off my skin, off initial spray, I get a kind of a slightly soapy-like quality here. This could be because of either I think this has orange blossom or neroli in it, and I think it's neroli, and so that's what's kind of giving me that vibe. But like I said, it is quite green, slightly damp, very earthy, and all those facets of Vetiver are kind of just really slapping you in the face. So you really have to appreciate Vetiver as a note, because it is all right here. This fragrance was perfumed by Jorge Lee. He has just done a phenomenal job. And actually, I think when Nishane kind of first got it, started pushing out fragrances, Jorge Lee actually created quite a few of the fragrances from the House of Nishane. And yeah, he has done a phenomenal job here. But longevity on my skin, it's definitely 10 plus hours easy. This is a big performer and one to check out if you love Vetiver. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Sultan Vetiver by Nishane. Next up from the House of Maison Crivelli, we have Oud Maracuja. So I could have easily put on any of the extracts from Maison Crivelli, as they are all beastly in terms of their performance, not only longevity, but their sillage and projection. They are just crazy performances. But in terms of longevity with this one, easily 24 hours. And I can even smell this one up to 48 hours on my skin, and that's with multiple showers. But of course, at that point, once you're reaching that 48-hour mark, it's not projecting or anything like that, but if you bring it in close and smell, you can still smell it, which is absolutely crazy. How they're able to do that, I have no idea. But Oud Maracuja is a great fragrance, and it has a really nice contrast between that kind of bright, juicy passion fruit and that dark oud that you get with this fragrance. There is kind of a slight kind of leathery vibe with this one as well. But like I said before, you have that juicy passion fruit that's given this fragrance kind of like a brightness, almost kind of like vacation vibes. And that's combined with that kind of dark oud here. And it's, bringing such an intoxicating and sexy vibe. I really enjoy this fragrance. And like I said, I live here in Japan, so I need to be extremely careful when I wear this fragrance. This is one spray, that's it. Sometimes I do a half a spray and that works a treat. This leaves a massive sillage. It's a room filler. So, spray with caution, or, forget about all that and just spray as much as you like. I mean, there's no rules to this. I mean, do what you like and what you love. If you like to spray 20 times, 30 times, then do that. Do what you love. But for me, this is like one spray or like a half a spray, and that works a treat for me here. And I get all day performance with this one. It really is crazy. And one thing I'll say about this is the oud in here, it doesn't come off barnyardy or skanky. This is an extremely easy oud to wear, so don't be afraid about that. But yeah, this is definitely a beast in all sense of the word, and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Oud Maracuja by Maison Crivelli. All right, next up from the House of D'Orsay, we have Tonka Hysteria. Man, so Tonka Hysteria is one of the 3 Extrait fragrances that was released late last year by D'Orsay. And D'Orsay hit it out of the park with all 3 of their extracts. Tonka Hysteria, I've smelled all 3. Tonka Hysteria is my favorite. I also own Flower Lust, and I have smelled Incense Crush before. They are all phenomenal, but Tonka Hysteria is easily my favorite. Man, this one is just dense, thick, creamy, warm, slightly sweet, and a bit spicy. Man, but such a phenomenal and intoxicating wear. You do get a slight powdery type of vibe in here. This does contain orris, so it comes off a little powdery. So if you're someone who doesn't like powdery fragrances, then you might want to kind of take caution or take note, and definitely sample this one. None of these fragrances on the list today are blind buy worthy. Please don't do that. Please sample, always sample. It's the only way to build a fragrance collection that you truly love. But yeah, this fragrance does come off slightly powdery, and me, I'm someone who I'm not a huge fan of powdery fragrances, but this is palatable for me, and actually I love it. I really, really enjoy this one. But this is easily 10 plus hours. This is a room filler. This will really push out. So whenever I wear this fragrance, I do about 2 sprays, and it works perfect for me. Occasionally I'll do 3 sprays. That's if I know I'm gonna be outside the majority of the time, then I'll do about 3. But if I'm gonna be indoors or anything like that, I'm usually doing about 2, and that lasts the entire day. This is a great performer, and if you're not familiar with the House of D'Orsay, They're a French brand, and typically they release fragrances that are a bit, they're quite elegant. They sit closer to the skin. They're not huge, beastly performers, but they are quality. They release very high quality. They smell absolutely amazing, the fragrances that they make. But yeah, their extraits, they are all quite beastly in terms of their performance. So I think d'Orsay here was stepping a bit outside of the box, or maybe even outside of their comfort zone, but they completely nailed it. And Tonka Hysteria was perfumed by Jordi Fernandez. He has done just an amazing job here. He also perfumed Oud Maracuja, which I just showed. So he does great work, and he's quickly becoming one of my favorite perfumers. But yeah, if you are interested in the House of d'Orsay, definitely check out their extraits, as they are all phenomenal. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Tonka Hysteria by d'Orsay. And finally, from the House of Perris Monte Carlo, we have Rose de Taif Extrait. All right, so I know I talk about this fragrance a lot on the channel, but man, this is my favorite rose fragrance in my collection. This is such a gorgeous take on Taif rose, and this is the way my image of this fragrance is if you're laying in a bathtub full of Taif rose petals, and then you chop open a lemon and just kind of squeeze the lemon all over you, this is basically what you get. There's more than that here in this fragrance. I mean, you do get a bit of patchouli and a bit of musk as well that start to push forward. However, this fragrance is dominated by that Taif rose and that very just gorgeous citrus that are in this fragrance. And that's one thing that Perris Monte Carlo does extremely well, in my opinion. I feel like they're a house that does citrusy based fragrances, or the citruses that they include in fragrances, extremely well. And they have a line of fragrances that are geared more towards the summertime that you should definitely check out, especially if you're into citrus based fragrances, as they are all amazing. And like I said, they just do citruses extremely well. And I think they're probably the house that do citruses the best, in my humble opinion. But Rose de Taif Extrait is such a gorgeous one. And if you're diving into the House of Perris Monte Carlo, they have the Rose de Taif, the EDP. Don't mess with the EDP. Go to the Extrait. That's where it's at. This one is so dense and thick, and it's a very jammy rose, and this just pushes out, especially when you wear this fragrance in the spring and the summertime. Those warmer seasons is where this fragrance completely shines. I mean, it's versatile. You can wear it any season, but spring and summer is when this fragrance completely just comes alive and shines. In terms of longevity, this is easily 10 plus hours on my skin. Projection and sillage are absolutely amazing as well. And yeah, this is a great one to check out. If you're someone who, is a guy and, you're kind of hesitant about diving into rose, I'm telling you, you are missing out. This is hands down, in my own collection, my favorite rose fragrance. It is really that good. It's just such an intoxicating experience, and one definitely not to miss. So don't be afraid of florals or rose fragrances. Definitely give them a shot, because they have a lot to offer, and they've completely changed my outlook on how I think about florals in my own fragrance journey. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Rose de Taif Extrait by Perris Monte Carlo. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comment section, what are some of your longest lasting fragrances in your collection? I'd love to hear about them. Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.